Today, I'm going to be showing you step by step how I made the color customizable fireworks for my 4th of July level. I'll also be giving you creation tips to help you with your own levels. The last 3 fireworks shows that I made, I used plasma, but I didn't use it here, so I wanted the player to be able to customize the color in play mode, and there's no color input for plasma, so I used sticker panel instead. And notice that there's 2 options for the color. That means that it will work with the RGB tweaker as well. So when I place it on the sticker panel, you'll notice that it changes color, and the plasma doesn't. I have the color tweaker in its own microchip, because you can't move it around or delete it, only copy and paste it. So having it in its own microchip just gives me more freedom to move it around, so I can organize my logic better. Right now, anything I place the color tweaker on will be black, because I don't have any colors plugged into it. But before you change the color, you need to set the brightness of the sticker panel to around 40%. That way the colors display correctly. And then from there, you can just go online and look up colors, the RGB values for colors. But to set this up in a game, you need to get out a timer, set it to 255. That's the max value for RGB, so for each RGB value, the max value is 255. The RGB color tweaker has 3 inputs. The first one is red, the second one is green, and the third one is blue. If we unpause the game right now, the timer would run, so we're going to stop it by connecting an off signal from the toggle. So just keep it at off, and then connect it to the timer, and then connect the timer to the first input of the RGB tweaker, which remember, it represents red. So the second timer is going to represent green. So we're going to plug that into the second input of the RGB tweaker. Then the third one represents blue. And from there, you can just look up colors online. The website that I like to use is called rapidtables.com. So you can use the color picker and then look at the RGB values and type them into the timers in game, and I'll show you how to do that soon. Or you can look at the colors right here and then just look at the RGB values and type them into the timers, which I'll show you later. What I like to do is go all the way to the bottom where all these colors are, so the color chart at the bottom, and it gives you like the whole rainbow and a whole bunch of extra colors, so a whole bunch of options, so you don't have to try to find a color yourself in the color picker. All the colors that you would want are like right in front of you, so like a whole bunch of options. So for example, for lime green, I looked at the RGB values, so red would be 124, green would be 252, and then blue is 0. So then I just typed those values into the correct timer in game. I color coded the logic so you could understand it better. So the first timer is red, so we changed that to 124 current time. And then the second timer is green, so we change the seconds to 252 for the current time. And then blue, we just leave it at 0. So then, after you finish tweaking, you should see that it displays the same color that we saw online. In my level, I wanted the player to be able to switch between different colors, so I put all the color value logic into a separate microchip, and for this example, I'm using 3 different colors, so I have a 3-port selector, and then you just copy and paste that microchip twice and change the values, right? But there's 2 ways you can do it after that. So you can use OR gates, which is what I did here, so I just used 3 OR gates for each color, and this was like really tedious to wire. It took a long time to wire. I was not thinking straight when I did this. There's like a way easier way to do this using tags and tag sensors, which I'm about to show you. So if you place a tag and you call it firework 1 or like anything, so I just had mine firework 1 because I wanted the player to be able to change between 3 different fireworks. Then you just copy and paste it, and then you change it to the correct color, so red, blue, and green. If you're enjoying this video or finding it helpful, don't forget to press the like button. After I connected the timers to the tags, I placed a tag sensor and I made sure the labels matched. So firework 1 is what I chose for the tag label. And then the really important thing here is to check tags in the same microchip. That way it works. And the other really important thing is signal strength. That way, it detects the position of the timer that's being sent to the tag. Then I copy and pasted the tag sensor, changed them to the right color, and connected them to the right input to the RGB tweaker. So now I have 3 colors. I already showed you how I got the first one from that website online. And then the second one, it was a similar process, just a different color, dodgy blue. And then the third one is a shade of pink that I like. Same process, just different color values. So to do this, I just copy and pasted the first microchip, changed the timer values, and then connected the selector outputs to the microchip inputs. It's not that much wiring, unlike over here. Like, look at how much wiring this is. It's not because I have 14 colors, it's because of the OR gates. Like, I was in a rush, I wasn't thinking straight. Using tag sensors and tags is just way easier. For the firework ball, What I did is I took a sticker panel, I plasmified it, and I made sure the brightness was set to 40%. That way the color displays correctly. And then, what was really important for me to do was pause my game. That way when I emitted it, it wouldn't flash away, it would just display the color right away. So I just dragged the microchip with the RGB tweaker in it, and then this time I used remote tag sensors. It's like the same thing as the tag sensors at the Infinite, so it detects the tag or the strength of the tag anywhere in the level. Then I saved it into my Poppet. I named it Firebrick 1, that way I didn't get confused when I made 2 more for my level. And then to test this, I put it into an emitter, and I had it emitting every 2 seconds or so. You don't need the original Firebrick anymore, you can delete it. So now you'll see when it emits as pink, because that's the color I have it on right now. I have it on pink, so it emits pink. But if I change it to blue, it would emit as blue. And you'll see there's no wires going from it. That's because the tag sensors. So now it emits as green. And all 3 colors come from one emitter. Now I'm going to show you how you can change the color of different sections of the Firebrick. My Firebrick had 3 different sections. Here's a picture if you don't know exactly what I mean. Color 1 in this case is gold. Color 2 is green. And color 3 is blue. And we're going to set up the logic so the player can change the color of each section using a simple menu. First you want to copy and paste the square, and then you want to open up all the microchips on that square for the color logic, group select the tags, and change the label to Firebrick 2. And then you would group select the tag sensors and change the label to the same thing. Then you would copy and paste that square and do the same thing, except the tag label will be Firebrick 3. So now you can change the colors independently of each other, but you'll notice that they flash to black before changing color. This only happens in the menu, not the actual Firebrick, but if you want to fix this, you could use a feedback loop, which is used for the most advanced health or currency systems, or really any system that uses different values, such as this one right here for changing color. The reason my setup causes the colors to flash to black is because this selector is turning each microchip on and off, which resets each value to 0 before setting it to the values I chose in the timers. A feedback loop will make it so we can add and subtract until we get to a specific value, without having to reset. Alright, so now I'll show you how I made the menu. So first I hooked up the left stick's up-down output to the selector's cycle input, and then I connected each output of the selector to triangles made out of sticker panel. So I'll show you how it's supposed to work. You'll see that it moves the opposite way. It goes up when it's supposed to go down, and it goes down when it's supposed to go up. But there's a way to fix this before we move on to anything else. What we're going to do is invert the signal. So place a direction splitter and a direction combiner. There's 2 ways to do this. One way is to plug the positive output into the negative input and plug the negative output into the positive input. Or what you could do is connect the positive to the positive and connect the negative to the negative, and then invert the direction combiner. After doing either method, plug the up-down signal into the direction splitter. Then plug the direction combiner into the selector's cycle input. So now that we inverted the direction, when we push our stick down, the menu goes down. And when we push our stick up, the menu goes up. But to make each color change separately, your first thoughts might be to connect each selector output to the microchips. But the problem with this is that it blocks off the color value. This turns the menu option in the Firebrick black. The left stick moving up and down controls which Firebrick section is changing color. I'm going to make it so the stick moving left and right controls cycling through the colors, but I only want the colors to cycle when you're on the section you chose. So I'm using the AND gates connected to the cycle input of each selector. So you would only be able to change the color of section 1 using the left stick when section 1, which is output 1, is selected. I connected the stick's left-right output to the first input of each AND gate. For the second input of each, selector output 1 went into the first AND gate, selector output 2 went into the second AND gate, and selector output 3 went into the third AND gate. Now we could change the menu, and you'll see that each color changes separately. To test the Firebrick balls, we could put them in 3 separate emitters. You'll see that it emits the colors that I chose in the menu. We could change the color and it will still emit correctly. I added 2 more colors, and then I made the actual Firebrick. I placed Firebrick 1 in pause mode so the color wouldn't change. When I do unpause the test, I have to rewind it right after. Then I placed the mover set to +4 of down speed so it would move up. I emitted Firebrick 1 a little bit below the ball. The frequency was set to 0 so it emits right away, so fast as possible. Lifetime is 3 seconds, so it doesn't stay on screen too long. And this is how long the tail of the Firebrick is going to be, so 15 emitted at once. Then choose the disappear option so there's no special effects. If you don't change the velocity, this will happen. So to make the tail appear longer, set the velocity to 4. After we add the rotation effect, the tail will look longer too. I'm going to make it rotate back and forth by using an infinite forwards backwards timer. You will set a timer to forwards backwards, inverted, and connect it to itself. So when it reaches the front, it goes backwards, and when it reaches the back, it goes forwards. And it keeps doing that forever. I set it to 0.3 so it goes fast. I placed the gyroscope at 35 degrees, and you can set that in the angle snap in the pause menu, and then you copy and paste this and flip it. Connect the timer to the first gyroscope into a NOT gate. Connect the NOT gate to the second gyroscope. That way it alternates between the two angles. You can make the tail longer by changing the velocity. So this is what it looks like when it's set at 7. I actually like the way it looks at 4, because that's what I used in my level, so I'm going to set it back to 4. What you don't want to do is change the max minute at once. That will also make it longer, but it will take up more thermal in your level, which you probably don't want. Now we're going to make the firework explode. So connect a 3-second timer to a NOT gate, connect this to a microchip containing the logic we just did, so it's going to move up for 3 seconds and then explode once we set that up. So connect the timer to a second microchip, so when it explodes it should be moving at a slower speed, so like +2. So we're just going to set the mover to +2. So then copy and paste the emitter, and set the velocity to 5 and the lifetime to 2. Then arrange the emitters in a pattern like this so you can understand it better and edit it easily if you need to. Select the emitter at the top and set firework 1 to emit right above the firework ball. Then select the bottom emitter and set firework 1 to emit right below the ball. Do the same for the left and right emitters. If we test it right now, you'll see that we're not completely finished. The first problem is that the tail of the firework is still there. We're going to place the emitter on the main microchip and make it so the tail disappears once the firework explodes. The timer not being full represents the time before it explodes, so connect the NOT gate to the emitter's left input and the timer to the destroy input. So now you see that there's no tail when it explodes. But now we're going to make it so it looks more like a firework. We're going to do this by making it rotate at a high speed. So place the rotator at 860 and 100% everything. So now it looks more like a firework. Now we're going to make colors come from it when it explodes. You would place a timer and connect it to a new microchip. So the timer represents 0.5 seconds after it explodes. So copy and paste the emitters and change them to velocity 6 and max emit at 5. The top and bottom emitters are going to emit fireworks too. Make the top emitter emit a few spaces above the main firework ball, and the bottom emitter should emit a few spaces below the firework ball. And you would do the same thing for the left and right emitters, except they would emit firework 3. Let's see how it looks. Now we're going to make it actually get destroyed when it explodes. So place a 0.1 timer and connect it to a destroyer set to the disappear effect. You'll see that it actually explodes, but there's no sound effects yet. All the sound objects are going to be in this main microchip. When the firework first appears, it should make a screaming sound. The destruction category's bomb whistle sounds pretty good. But if you have the Muppets pack, you could use Firework Scream, which plays for a shorter time, but sounds more realistic. Either way, you'll need to set position sound to off, so you don't have to be really close to the fireworks to hear it. I tried doing play on creation, but this didn't work for some reason, so I connected the timer's NOT gate to the sound. So when the firework appears, it plays the sound. For the firework cracker sound, you could use the sound in the destruction category. Then connect the timer to the sound, so when it explodes, it plays the sound. For the actual explosion sound, you have two options, but either way, set it to play on destruction. If you have the Muppets pack, you can use Firework Explode. But I don't like how it sounds, but maybe that's because I've been using the destruction category explosion sound for 2 years. Also make sure it's set to play on destruction. And that's the basic firework. You can customize it however you like. So to give it a spiral effect, you can lower the rotation to 430. Or you can remove some emitters and it will look different. But I'm gonna set it back to the basic settings and save it to my pocket. My fire rate is gonna emit in layer 16 so it doesn't kill any players in the level. And I have it above the ground so it doesn't touch the level's default floor and play the breaking sound. I'm gonna wire the X button to the emitter set to emit one firework and emit once. I have the menu set to the Little Big Planet mainline colors, and the firework will emit as those colors. Now I'll show you how to make a custom firework design like this. Place the basic firework in pause mode. Then delete 3 of these emitters, and delete the microchip containing the color 2 and 3 explosion balls. To make the custom firework design, I'm using the LBP sticker on a square of sticker panel as a template. Make sure you place it big enough before placing the firework balls. Then decide which sections you're going to change color. So I'm going to make the letter I firework color 1, the heart color 2, and color 3 is the letters LBP. I switched the front view to get accurate placement, but made sure the firework balls and sticker panel were on separate layers so the materials wouldn't combine. Then I placed firework 1 on the letter I. I placed firework 2 on the heart but didn't fill it in to save thermal space. Another way I save thermal space is by not placing the firework balls close together. Instead, I spaced them out a bit, so I'd be placing less firework balls. I placed firework 3 on the letters LBP. After I finished the design, I moved to the sticker panel and moved things around a bit so it looked better. I don't like the way I did the B, so I changed that. After I fixed the design, I deleted the sticker and made the sticker panel transparent. Then I moved the sticker panel onto the same layer as the firework balls so I could glue everything together. I want the design to spin before exploding, so I placed the rotator at 500 and 100% everything. When it emits, I don't want it to go flying off somewhere, so I place the anti-gravity tweaker at 80%. This way it stays in place but can still rotate. The explosion sound is going to play when the custom firework gets destroyed, so I placed the sound object on it. Make sure it's set to not visible in play mode. I saved it to my pocket, and then I centered it above the firework ball when I placed it into the emitter. It's really important that it's set to 1 for both max emitted and max emitted at once, or else multiple could appear and your game could lag and freeze for a few seconds, because of all the objects being on screen at once. You'll see that the firework appears and spins, but now I have to do 2 things. First, I made the firework ball get destroyed by a timer. I set it to 0.1, so the firework design has time to emit. So now, the ball doesn't stay on screen, just the design. Then set the lifetime to 0.8, so it doesn't spin too long. I want it to disappear when it's not at too much of an angle, so I changed it to 0.7. I saved it to my pocket and placed it into the emitter. You'll see that it will emit the colors that I chose in the menu.